Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, turnout low as business community seeks God's intervention as the country observes National Day of Fasting and Prayer against the coronavirus. Meantime, government is turning to the IMF for financial support as confirmed cases of coronavirus increase to 68. And we'll also tell you how Chinese businesses are supporting the fight against the spread of coronavirus here in Ghana. My name is Darryl Kwao, and you are at the marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. It's great to have you on board the marketplace this afternoon. We want to begin with today's big story. Government is turning to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. It has requested for a disbursement under the IMF's credit facility to help in the fight against the coronavirus. Ghana now has 68 coronavirus cases. Joining me in studio with more on this is Philip Namfuri, who has been following this keenly for us. Philip, so why the need to go for this loan?
Well, Darryl, like we discussed on our earlier bulletins, we are facing a severe health crisis. With the health crisis comes economic implications. With the economic implications comes dire negative consequences for a growing economy like ours.
Right.
We have a budget. We projected to get a certain amount of oil revenue for a certain amount of time on the back of the virus and other tensions between two major oil producers. Oil prices have dropped. International demand is going to go down. What's going to happen? Government needs money, needs financing to support economic activity and businesses, etc. Where can we turn to for such large amounts of cash? Not the commercial markets. We need to turn to the International Monetary Fund, the Bretton Woods institutions. So we've gone to the IMF for what we call a rapid credit facility. Like the name suggests, rapid. Money is going to come as in a more quicker manner as compared to other fund programs. Now, I also put together 8 different sets of infographics with regards to the information concerning this. Let's start with the basic one that looks at what the RCF is. Now, it says it's one of the IMF's lending instruments or fund facility programs. There are other ones that are in there. Standby arrangement, SBA, flexible credit line, precautionary liquidity line, extended fund facility. Now, what all these things mean are different programs for different needs. And for this need, Ghana's need, what we are going for is the rapid credit facility. The last time we were at the IMF, we went for the extended credit facility. That's the ECF. Now, I want us to move on to the next infograph that looks at the rest of the types of fund programs. And yeah, so what I mentioned, the extended credit facility, we also have the rapid financing instrument, trade integration mechanism, rapid credit facility, which we'll come to discuss, and a policy support instrument. I remember sometime the former Minister of Finance, Seth Tekpe, was advocating Ghana sign on to this policy support instrument. Let's move on to the next infograph that looks at the basic tenets of what the rapid credit facility program is. And it provides rapid concessional financial assistance with limited conditionality to low-income countries such as Ghana's. What do we mean by rapid? It's going to be disbursed in a quick manner. Concessional, soft terms, rather than going to the market to borrow high interest rates. And with limited conditionality, that's one thing we always argue about, the IMF conditionalities. What this does for you is that the conditionalities kick in after you've received the money. Other programs that we are used to, normally you discuss the conditionalities before the funds are disbursed, and most of the time they're disbursed in tranches. This time, according to the IMF's website and the explanation of this, we're going to receive this after the disbursement of these funds. Now, if we go on to the next piece of information on the infograph, it gives us I'll call it a snapshot of how things go. And let me just read for our listeners, for our viewers, I beg your pardon. In ex post conditionality, the country receiving aid agrees to conditions set by the donor or lender that they will carry out after they receive the aid. The RCF is available to PRGT. What it means is Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust eligible members that face an urgent balance of payment needs. Remember, I discussed what balance of payment means in the morning, where a full-fledged economic program is either not necessary, for instance, because of transitory and limited nature of the shock. the coronavirus is a transitory issue. We know it will pass. We don't know when, but we know that it will pass. Now, I want us to move on to the next one that discusses very key issues. And it says, while RCF financing takes the form of a one-off disbursement, there is a scope for repeat use. So when we're accessing this fund, there's a one-off shoot to us. But however, we are eligible to come on for repeat use. There are some conditions in there. Remember, during the extended credit facility, there were disbursements. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. Now, with regards to this RCF and what the IMF is saying, you cannot have more than 2 disbursements within a 12-month period. We'll come down to the numbers, and then that will give us a picture of how much the country will be benefiting. But if we move on to our next infograph, this one. So we can talk about the conditions for accessing this fund. And it says here, it's determined on a case-by-case basis, taking into account the country's balance of payments needs, the strength of its macroeconomic policies. We've done some very good work on the macroeconomic fundamentals. Our capacity to repay the fund out of the amount of outstanding fund credit, and the members' record of past use of fund credit. So all these things will be assessed by the IMF authorities before government will be disbursed this fund. However, they're going to do that. So
that means we may not qualify for this kind of facility?
I think all things being equal, we may qualify. Reading from what I've seen here, we may qualify. Because over the past, we've used our IMF funds judicially, to my large understanding. It's the Eurobond issues that people have, that we go for Eurobond and come and use it to finance recurrent expenditure rather than capital. So I think with the fund issues, we are all well and good.
And as of now, we don't know how much Ghana is requesting.
Very good. So I want us to move on to one of the infographs that talks about the amount we are going to have. And if you look at Ghana's quota under the IMF, it's calculated in what we call SDR. That's Special Drawing Rights. And the quota in there is 738 million. Now, Special Drawing Rights is a basket of currencies. So you have the US dollar in there, you have the euro in there, you have the yen, the major currencies. How much is it in dollar terms? This is Ghana's quota. 998,572,237.22. So we're talking about close to $1 billion in terms of access to funds for the country. But what are the percentages of this access? We can have 50% per year, 100% of the quota on a cumulative basis, or we can have the standard initial disbursement of 25%. So if you strike 25% of $1 billion, we're looking at about give or take $250 million. But what about the financing terms of this? 0 interest rate. Very important. Grace period of 5.5 years. Grace period means that for the next 5.5 years, after we've disbursed you these funds, don't pay anything. Make sure by that time, we hope that this virus will be over. Hopefully. All be well and good. Yes, by God's will, because we really need this virus to be over. And then a final maturity of 10 years. So you are going to pay this loan over a course of 10 years. And 10 years is 20, we're looking at 2030. Some have predicted that there will be another virus in 2030, but God forbid it, we don't want that. So essentially, we have more or less up to $1 billion at our disposal, but it will depend on the negotiations our government, particularly fiscal and monetary authorities, have with the IMF on how much they're going to give us.
And this is happening just when we thought our love affair with the IMF was over.
Yes. So over the course of several IMF programs, the issue has been with the conditionalities, because some have described these programs as following a certain procedure. So you cut back on expenses, etc. However, there have been some good aspects to IMF programs, because remember, during the crisis of the 1980s, when Ghana's economic system was in complete shambles, we had to fall on the Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank, IMF. And I would want Ghanaians to keep in their minds that no matter what happens, we are still part of the 189 members of the IMF, 190 if Andorra's application is approved in the subsequent months. But we are still part of the IMF. And this is the very reason why we must keep the relationship with them, because we need such things. Who saw this coming? Yeah.
Nobody saw this coming. And I also want to find out, what would this mean for our debt situation?
Okay, so for our debt situation, over time, our debt, external debt, we have the multilateral partners, bilateral, we have the the international commercial borrowing, that's the Eurobonds we do, and then the export credit agencies. What we are taking is a multilateral debt, which when you look at the quantum of our external debt, is the largest. However, the commercial borrowing is what is good. That's the Eurobonds. That's what is growing. But with these, look at the Darrow, zero interest rates. When we go for our Eurobonds, we don't have a lot. And if you factor in the considerations of finance ministers of Africa asking for a wipe of some of our debt, 44 billion in terms of our debt, so that it gives us room to handle this corona issue. If they come to an agreement on that, we should see less interest repayments as a country, all things being equal. But our debt, yes, may go up marginally in terms of multilateral debt, but multilateral debt is softer as compared to commercial debt. And
before we go, I just want us to touch on, since we are talking about monies to fight the coronavirus, the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Senate have agreed a massive economic relief package that's $1.8 trillion. Now, the package includes money to bail out industries that have been affected by this crisis. So how critical was it that they were able to pull this through?
I mean, Darrow, I know you followed President Trump's submissions. He's more concerned about the impact on the U.S. economy. This is an economic powerhouse. Can you imagine the U.S. coming to a standstill? Look at how the financial markets have whipsawed over the course of the time. 6 trillion is the amount in total stimulus that has been made available. This is supposed to kickstart things in the U.S. economy and make sure that when companies are going through tough times, they have access to cheaper credit, they have access to aid, particularly small businesses. And in Ghana, we need to think about our SMEs, which form a chunk of the market. So if things are going well in the U.S., all things being equal, we should see it percolate to other parts of the financial market system.
I don't know if we can pull up how the markets are reacting to this, but we've seen that the markets are reacting positively to this. Yes. That is what we need,
That's what we need, yes.
And so for a country like Ghana, how should we react to this as well? We should be excited, right? Because this is an economy we benefit from. Just take a look at that. We're seeing that the markets are reacting positively, and that is good news, because in the past couple of weeks, it's been turmoil.
It's been red. Yeah, I mean, we should be excited. We have good relations with the United States of America. We have Ghanaians living and working there. We trade with them. But one thing that comes to my mind is the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act that we hear President Trump wants to do away with after it expires. I mean, we need to position ourselves to start taking. Remember, Kenya also had a discussion with the U.S. with regards to bilateral trade talks, and some are not happy that we should have gone as an African body rather than individual countries. So let's see how things go with regards to the U.S. economy. But right now, things are looking good. However, the critical issue here is slowing down the spread of the virus. The funds are there, but if the funds are there and nobody wants to do anything, wants to go out, they'll be there for use, but the negative impacts will still percolate. But we should hope that all things being equal, this bodes well for the economy.
And hopefully the IMF money comes through, and we're able to fight this coronavirus pandemic. Thanks very much indeed, Philip Namfori. So as we turn to the IMF for support, we are also seeking the intervention of God, a breakthrough somehow that this virus goes away. Well, traders in the Central Business District of Accra are taking part in the National Day of Prayer and Fasting. Their plea to God is to end this pandemic so business activities can normalize. We don't know, we do not know these traders we do know rather that these traders have been at the receiving end of the coronavirus pandemic, especially as market centers are recording low turnout amid the panic and high alert. Now, some of them interacted with my colleague Charles Aite.
We're here to measure how spiritual traders are in the wake of the National Prayer and Fasting Day, which has been called by President Akufo-Addo as part of measures to curb the coronavirus spread.
Not because of the illness that today you'll be calling or you'll be fasting. You have to be calling God every time, because God knows everything. And He knows that the illness will come. He is testing us.
I'm feeling it in the environment, but with me personally, I'm not, like, I'm just doing my normal fasting, normal prayers for everything else, but then not in particular with the fasting, doing this because of the president said no. But then in general, I can see the environment is all tense and everything. So happy that I got my sanitizer, so I use it when I wash my hands more. So when I want to serve someone, I wash my hands. We have the liquid soap, we have the water. I wash my hands. If I want to serve somebody, I use the rubber with my hand. I don't pick with my own hands.
That prayer alone does not solve issues or problems. That's why God gave us the brains to think. So after you pray, then you do the needy. Prayer is very good, it's very necessary, but prayer without action is useless, it's baseless. As Christians and Muslims, we need to understand that, because those are the basics of our beliefs.
God says the hands are working, not working, can never eat. That's why we are still in praying on spirit. I'm also fasting.
Oh, so you're fasting today? You haven't eaten today?
This is my food. I never take anything. I'm waiting for 12 o'clock because of my head, I have a ulcer in my stomach, so I can't do 6 to 6. So I will eat a half day.
We're speaking because we can see Korea. Most of them do not believe in God. But when it turned to a serious matter, you see, all of them are running to the churches praying for God and deliverance. So I think it's better. It will help.
Well, faith without works is dead. This is the message that most of the traders have been interacting with are echoing. The fact that, yes, it is a national day for prayer and fasting, but they want government to do more, to act more in containing and preventing the spread of the coronavirus. It's really impacting their business. You can see around how dull the entire place has been the whole day. They believe, yes, let us pray, but of course, let us also put in the measures, the stimulus packages to revamp the already suffering trading community. I'm Charles Aite for Joy Business.
Well, corporate bodies are supporting the fight against the coronavirus. Ethiopian Airlines has delivered test kits from Jack Ma Foundation as more Chinese businesses are expected to contribute to the fight against the pandemic. Now, political chief of mission for the China Embassy in Ghana, Zhu Jing, has revealed more Chinese businesses will be lending some support to fight coronavirus in Ghana. He joins me in the studio. Thanks for your time this afternoon. Great to have you in studio. Let's first begin with the donation from Jack Ma. Tell us about the items that were donated and where they're going.
Oh, yes. Actually, this morning we went to the airport about the Jack Ma Foundation actually donate to all the 54 African countries. With each country have about around 100,000 masks, 20,000 testing kits, and 1,000 face shield and 1,000 medical use protective kits. Yeah. So altogether for every African country you can have all this. So altogether it's about maybe 6 million face masks, 1.1 million testing kits, and 60,000 protective suits and 60,000 face shield, yeah, altogether.
And so we know that China is gradually recovering from
Yes.
the pandemic. I know that, for instance, this week we had news that Wuhan will ease travel restrictions, and China is trying to help other nations as well. Yes. So what kind of support are you looking at for other nations apart from the donations that you're giving?
Yes, of course. Up till now, we already provide different kind of assistance to more than 100 countries in different forms. Because right now Europe was hit the hardest at present. So right now our focus mainly on Europe. We send medical teams to quite some European countries, like Italy and some other European countries. But also in the meantime, we're also trying to put our donation not only to some European countries, but also to Africa. And the Chinese government has already announced we will provide donations and facilities and some protective suits to all African countries, including Ghana. Actually, right now our embassy is trying very hard to coordinating for this air transportation, because right now most of the airlines already been cut off their air service. So it's quite a big challenge for our embassy to try to coordinate for this shipping and transportation of these materials. Yes.
So what we've seen is from the Jack Ma Foundation,
Yes.
and I know that there are a number of Chinese businesses that operate here in Ghana as
Yes.
well. What are you hearing from them? How are they rallying? How are they trying to help the situation in the country?
Yes, actually our embassy also talked with the Chinese communities here, including the state-owned enterprises, their branches here, and also some private sector, the Chinese community here. Actually, so far as I know, there are some Chinese company, they are ready to provide some financial assistance, not only, and also some protective materials, which is more tangible to the Ghanaian side. Right now, we are trying to coordinate all these efforts together. I think in very soon they will make more detailed donation to the Ghanaian side. Yes.
Well, this is very fantastic, but I just want us to talk a bit more about how this has impacted the economy of China while you're here. How has it impacted your economy?
Yeah, frankly, of course, we have do have some influence to our economy. But as our government, our attach more importance to human life than economy. First of all, because if the first priority should be economy, you have to postpone the spread of the virus. Otherwise, which means probably if you attach too much importance to economy, which means more life will be spared. So that's not our focus. We're trying our best to save lives. That's our priority. We believe as time goes by, as long as we control the virus, the economy will rebound because the fundamentals of Chinese economy are very strong. So we have very serious confidence in our economy. We believe that the influence is short term, so we will rebound very quickly.
In terms of control, what do you think worked for China?
Frankly, I think it's about that coordinating effort with a very quick response. We actually Wuhan City, which have 11 million people. We just locked down the whole city, and in many parts of the whole country, people voluntarily, to self-quarantine, maybe for 3 weeks, even more. In some part, even more. So most Chinese people, they think they quarantine themselves as a civic duty. So they are very disciplined. So we are very happy. Actually, most of our citizens, they understand the seriousness to our economy, to our people's life. They respect this self-quarantine recommendation. So that's why.
So are manufacturing companies back to work?
Right now, yeah. Right now, in most part of the country, apart from the Hubei province and the Wuhan city, they are all back to work. Majority, maybe 90%, already in manufacturing, already back to work. Right now, we are producing all these kind of, like masks, like sanitizers, all sorts of things, and export everywhere.
Okay, and while we talk about how the Chinese economy has been hit, how long do you think it would take for you to recover? Because the latest figures you posted up on the state of the economy didn't look very good. How soon do you hope to recover out of this?
Yeah, I'm not an economist.
Yeah, but what are you hearing from the economists from your side?
Yeah, I think right now, the most part, the majority of the Chinese, the whole country has already been, nearly every people got back to work, to the factories, to their import and export industries, to their so it seems everything seems back to normal. Even the so-called epicenter, right now they are going to lift their restrictions since I think the early April. So right now, actually, in the past few days, there's no domestic transmission case in China. Only some. And
that's very impressive.
Yeah, in the past 3 or 4 days, there's no domestic transmission case in China. Only a few imported from abroad cases because of international travel.
But China is not willing to shut its airports to international travels.
No.
Not now.
We all got more restrictive quarantine measures, but we will never shut down the international travel. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your time this afternoon. That you heard me speak with the political chief of mission for China's embassy, Su Jing. It's been insightful talking to you about the coronavirus pandemic, how China has recovered, and how China is helping other countries recover too. Hopefully, this virus will vanish. Yeah. Thank you very much, Su Jing. There is political chief of mission for the China embassy. And in the marketplace this afternoon, more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Powell. Thanks for watching.